Hi, welcome to our YouTube-friendly version of NTD News. What you'll see here is only the content that YouTube allows. For our complete, uncensored broadcast, head on over to ntd.com, and you can click on the link below. See you there. North Korea today releasing an American soldier. The U.S. got Private Travis King back with the help of Sweden. NTD's Arian Pazdar has the details.
The United States has secured the return of Private Travis King from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
The State Department on Wednesday announcing that the soldier who sprinted into North Korea is on his way back to the U.S. Private Travis King ran across the heavily fortified border between North and South Korea 2 months ago. The State Department says North Korea's release does not indicate a breakthrough in diplomatic relations with the communist regime.
We tried to reach out on a number of occasions. They rejected our direct approaches and ended up talking to Sweden, and Sweden talked to us and helped negotiate this transfer.
The announcement has surprised some observers who expected North Korea to drag out his detention. A former White House official says Private King might not have been of high value to them.
He was extensively debriefed, so I'm sure they found out whatever they need to find out. And then, it's matter of, it does cost to keep somebody for a lifetime, right? There's a financial cost, there's a logistically, you need to have somebody always staying with him, there's a language barrier. So after finding out maybe that Travis was they've got everything they needed out of him.
The State Department on Wednesday laying out the route King traveled to get back to U.S. custody.
He was transported to the border between North Korea and China, where he was met by our ambassador to the People's Republic of China, Nicholas Burns. He then boarded a State Department OpMed plane and flew from Dandong, China to Shenyang, China, and then on from Shenyang to Osan Air Force Base in South Korea, where he was transferred to the Department of Defense.
King's expulsion almost certainly does not end his troubles. He has been declared absent without leave from the army. This can mean time in military jail, loss of pay, or even dishonorable discharge. King will reportedly be taken to Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio when he returns to the U.S. Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
And Democrats want embattled Senator Bob Menendez to step down. But today he pleaded not guilty to bribery conspiracy charges. NTD's legal correspondent Arlene Richards has more details.
Senator Bob Menendez maintaining his innocence Wednesday at a federal arraignment hearing in Manhattan. The senator and his wife, Nadine, who also pleaded not guilty, face 3 counts as part of an alleged bribery conspiracy. The couple are accused of taking bribes from 3 New Jersey businessmen in exchange for the senator's influence. Menendez was released on $100,000 bond. Meanwhile, around 30 Senate Democrats have called on Menendez to resign, including House Democrat Chair Pete Aguilar and Senate Majority Whip Dick Durbin.
It doesn't bring me or any of us joy to say that he should resign, but he should. For the betterment of the Democratic Party, for the people of New Jersey, it's better that he fights this trial outside of the halls of Congress.
Durbin, who previously supported Menendez, changed course Wednesday, saying in a social media post, leaders in New Jersey, including the governor and my Senate colleague Cory Booker, have made it clear that Senator Menendez can no longer serve. He should step down. Senator Booker said in a statement Tuesday that it was a mistake for Menendez to refuse to step down, and that stepping down would be best for the senator's constituents. Senator Chuck Schumer broke his silence at a press conference on Wednesday.
Like you, I was just deeply disappointed, disturbed when I read the indictment. But we all know that for senators, there's a much, much higher standard. And clearly, when you read the indictment, Senator Menendez fell way, way below that standard. Tomorrow, he will address the Democratic caucus, and we'll see what happens after that.
Schumer stopped short of saying Menendez should resign. Other Senate Democrats also didn't call for Menendez to step down. Rhode Island Senator Jack Reed said he thinks the court should play out. Nevada Senator Catherine Cortez Masto said it's up to the voters to decide. Menendez is up for re-election in 2025. Will he leave his post? And what happens if he does? Under the Constitution, New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy can appoint someone from either party to fill the seat. That person would serve out the rest of Menendez's term, which expires on January 3rd, 2025. Steph?
Thanks, Arlene. And next, we'll examine some of the arguments and counter-arguments put forward in State Attorney General Letitia James's case against former President Trump. The judge ruled yesterday that Trump and his company committed fraud while building his real estate empire, an assertion that his defense attorneys say has no basis in fact. Earlier today, I spoke with Jesse Bernal, an attorney for the former president in his other civil cases. Jesse Bernal, welcome to our show. Thank you so much for joining us. The recent ruling by Judge Arthur Engoron accusing Donald Trump and his company of committing fraud while building his real estate empire. Could you provide some insights into the key arguments made by the New York Attorney General Letitia James in this case?
Well, I mean, it's a very sad day, again, in America, that we're having to look at a ruling like this that, quite frankly, continues to target President Trump based on his politics and rather on the law. The Attorney General has made the claim that there was fraud involved in President Trump's real estate dealings without any basis in law or in fact. It's so incredible that even the judge found that Mar-a-Lago, a property that's probably worth close to $1 billion, if you look at some experts, was only worth about $18 million, and somehow that was a basis for fraud. It shows a lack of understanding of the law, and it's, again, this politicalization of our legal system that is tearing at the very threads of our constitutional system of government in this country.
If there is weight to that argument, do you expect Trump's legal team to appeal on those grounds? Would another judge rule differently on this, do you think?
Oh, I think there will absolutely be appeals in this case. I mean, there are two levels of appeals that this can go to just in the state court in New York alone. And that's the first level is called the appellate division of the New York Supreme Court. And then the next level above that is the Court of Appeals. And so really what we're going to see is the New York justice system still sufficiently impartial that there are judges that will apply the law rather than just hop on the bandwagon that we see too often right now in places like New York and Washington, D.C. of get Trump.
And you mentioned that there were varying valuations for some of the properties, including Mar-a-Lago. How is it, what justification has Letitia James used to decide which valuation to use, and how does that relate to the fraud charges?
Well, I mean, she has looked at various different models to try to gauge what the appropriate value for these properties are, and then try to claim that somehow he lied to creditors. And I think it's important to remember that no creditor missed a payment, that none of these creditors were harmed, that there were statements in the all the financial disclosures saying that essentially they're estimates and they shouldn't be relied upon, and reliance is a key part of fraud. And there's a reason that you do that in property, because property, and the law recognizes this, property by its very nature is unique. The value of a property changes at any point because in order to know what the value is, you have to find a willing buyer and a willing seller. So to be able to determine what that is can fluctuate widely, especially when you're looking at, for instance, Mar-a-Lago, one of the most unique pieces of property in the entire world. While Letitia James may be arguing that, you have to remember this is someone that ran for office saying that she was going to get Donald Trump, that this is a mob rule type situation in our judiciary, and both by the prosecutor and then unfortunately by the judge as well. And so those trying to say, for instance, that Mar-a-Lago is worth between $18 and $26 million by anyone who knows Florida real estate is just laughable. I saw somebody say, "Oh, it's worth $18 million. Can I have 10 of them?" Because because there is no universe in which Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 to $26 million. There's a clump of trees down the road from Mar-a-Lago that's undeveloped, that's on a much smaller parcel of land that's worth, I think, currently in the market for $150 million. If they tried to make that argument in a judicial system that wasn't controlled by the left wing, they would be laughed out of court. Unfortunately, they're making that argument in a judicial system that is very much focused on getting Donald Trump, not on doing justice.
Jesse Bernal, thank you so much. Great to hear your thoughts on this.
Thank you so much for having me.
And new information about Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings out today. House members released hundreds of pages in relation to the investigation. NTD's Melina Weisskopf has more.
IRS whistleblowers who previously testified on Hunter Biden's tax evasion gave documents to the House Ways and Means Committee. That committee reviewed those documents today in an executive closed-door session, after which they did vote to release partially redacted versions of those documents to the public. These documents, of course, pertain back to Hunter Biden's foreign cash flow and how or if that relates back to President Biden. Although Biden has denied any involvement in these business deals, here's Jason Smith, the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, explaining what exactly is in these new documents now released to the public.
How then Vice President Biden's April 2014 official visit to Ukraine occurred only days after a series of meetings between Hunter Biden and Vice President Biden himself. Hunter Biden sent an email to Devin Archer saying, quote, "We need to get to Mexico City and cement the deal with Miguel." Public records show Joe Biden later used Air Force Two to shuttle Hunter and another business associate, Jeff Cooper, to Mexico City.
And Congressman Tim Burchett did tell me that there is another piece of evidence recently released by the Oversight Committee that caught his eye.
I think this latest, though, with the wire transfer from China going to Joe Biden's home address, and with him listed as the recipient in the text, I think that's pretty damning. There's no other way around it.
And those wires did happen at the time that Biden was running for the office of the president. All of this comes just one day before the House Oversight Committee is set to hold that first hearing on the impeachment inquiry into the president. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
And President Biden addresses the potential government shutdown. His comment comes as he visits California for a series of private fundraisers and a meeting with tech advisors. NTD's David Lamb reports.
President Biden visits California for a two-day trip. He attended several private fundraisers in the San Francisco Bay Area on Tuesday evening before making his way down the peninsula on Wednesday.
We're in a situation where we used to have a significant portion of our GDP going into research and development. And it got down to 0.7% from 2%.
Biden's remarks came as he met with the President's Council of Advisors on Science and Technology. Speakers said they will report on recommendations on medical patient safety and experience, as well as possibilities and risks of artificial intelligence. They want to use it to predict weather extremes as climate change, create materials, and understand the origins of the universe. Biden's visit and fundraiser events come as Congress continues to grapple with an impending government shutdown on October 1st. Both houses are unable to agree on budget bills. But Biden told reporters during his California visit,
I don't think anything's inevitable in politics. And I'll just say, if we have a government shutdown, a lot of vital work in science and health could be impacted, from cancer research to food safety.
While the Biden administration is looking into AI technology, Jim Shoemaker, running for California Senate, told NTD the administration's economic policies have hindered technological growth in California.
This state is so powerful in the ability to create new technology that it's foolish for this administration that we have to stifle that technology advancements that we have.
Biden plans to head to Arizona Wednesday night. In Santa Clara, California, David Lamb, NTD News.
Meanwhile, in the GOP, Republican candidates will duke it out tonight in the second primary debate. What can we expect?
And I think this time it's going to be a much more contentious debate, and Haley and DeSantis especially are going to get a lot more attacks from the other candidates, and it'll be interesting to see how they stand up to that pressure.
Aaron Call, a debate expert at University of Michigan, says the candidates can't just attack each other to do well. But he does think the key to getting ahead is to attack Trump, the frontrunner, by a wide margin. A recent CNN poll shows former President Trump maintaining a comfortable lead as we head into the second debate. He holds an average of 58% support, with Governor Ron DeSantis holding a distant second at 15%. 7 candidates will spar tonight, including DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, and former Vice President Mike Pence. Former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson didn't meet the requirements this time, and Trump has declined to participate. The debate is being held at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley, California. It starts at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. A first in the nation, California now has a firearm tax. The governor has also signed into law a series of gun bills ranging from concealed carry to micro-stamping. NTD's Eileen Nang has more.
Governor Gavin Newsom signed a series of gun control measures into law on Tuesday. One is AB 28. It raises taxes on guns and ammunition to pay for more security at public schools and various violence prevention programs.
We need to do more to protect our kids, and we need to do more to protect our communities. And this very simple, very straightforward excise tax is going to raise historic resources.
The federal government already has sales taxes on guns and ammunition at either 10 or 11%, depending on the type of gun. The law Newsom signed adds another 11% tax on top of that, making California the only state with its own tax on guns and ammunition. Newsom said that gun violence already costs taxpayers a lot of money in health impacts and the criminal justice system.
This is not a general income tax, not a corporate tax. This is not, it's from my perspective, more of a sin tax where there's a cause and effect and justification.
The law is expected to generate $160 million annually. In an email statement to NTD, the California Rifle and Pistol Association said the law would not have any effect on criminals. The governor says this is only a tax on the gun industry, but the gun industry is not responsible for criminals terrorizing store owners and citizens. Those policies fall squarely on Newsom and a legislature who refuses to take any real action against those who commit crimes in our state. The association's president has also criticized the new laws, calling them unconstitutional. Newsom also signed a law overhauling state rules for carrying concealed weapons. California's new law bans people from carrying guns in nearly all public places, including public parks and playgrounds, public demonstrations and gatherings, amusement parks, churches, banks, and any place where alcohol is sold. Newsom also signed a law that would require all semi-automatic pistols sold in California to have micro-stamping technology starting July 2028.
So what this does is it allows law enforcement to solve crimes more quickly because it connects the bullet to the gun.
According to 2021 data from the CDC, California ranks second out of 50 states for the most number of gun-related deaths recorded. The state has a lower death rate due to its large population. California also has the most number of gun laws in the country.
And Texas Governor Greg Abbott visited New York City today to address the border crisis. He highlighted the immigration challenges faced not only by New York, but also by Texas and the rest of the nation. NTD's Jason Perry attended the event, which took place at a venue near the Roosevelt Hotel.
I'm here in New York City, right outside of Roosevelt Hotel. It's been the city's intake center for immigrants. And while I was standing here, a man from Senegal approached me and asked me where he needed to go. So we talked to some workers right outside of this entrance, and they pointed the man in this direction to an entrance over here. New York City continues to deal with this immigration crisis, and Governor Abbott says that's just a fraction of what Texas sees on a daily basis.
We have in any one particular location thousands of people crossing the border in a mad rush type of way.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott was in New York City on Wednesday. He spoke at the Manhattan Institute about the nation's border crisis, and he shared some surprising numbers regarding the illegal immigrants currently in New York City.
How many migrants do you have here? 120,000, something like that? Texas has bused 15,800 to New York. Where do these other people come from? The Biden administration.
Abbott explained that Texas has deployed the National Guard and the Texas Department of Public Safety to help deal with the crisis. And the National Guard has been setting up miles of razor wire along the U.S.-Mexico border.
The Biden administration had their Border Patrol go in and cut that razor wire that we put up, pull it open, and there was an onrush of thousands of illegal immigrants pouring into the country.
Abbott also said Texas is now building border barriers between Texas and New Mexico to stop illegal immigrants from crossing into El Paso.
Never forget, it was just 3 years ago, we had the lowest number of border crossings in 40 years. It's kind of hard for people to understand or remember. But it proves this, and that is the President of the United States can have an outsized impact on illegal immigration across the border.
And last week, over 8,600 people crossed the U.S.-Mexico border in a 24-hour period, according to an official from the Department of Homeland Security. That's up from about 3,500 per day after Title 42 ended in May. And Abbott said the solution is for the Biden team to just follow the laws already in place.
Not have to pass new laws. Enforce the current laws on the books. Until that time comes, Texas is going to continue to use every tool that we can to secure the border the best that we can.
Jason Perry, NTD News, New York.
And the Biden administration's plan to house illegal immigrants on federal lands and in national parks is under scrutiny. A House committee held a hearing today examining the proposal.
The Housing Committee on Natural Resources held a hearing Wednesday on the Biden administration's use of National Park Service lands to house illegal immigrants. Earlier this month, the Biden administration agreed to lease Floyd Bennett Field to New York City. The site is part of the Gateway National Recreation Area and will temporarily house 2,500 of the immigrants.
The endless flow of illegal immigrants over our southern border is not only destroying individual cities and states, it's destroying our country. Now the Biden administration is looking to spread this chaos to one of America's greatest ideas, our national parks.
When announcing the Biden administration's decision, New York City Mayor Eric Adams said his own administration has, quote, been forced to unsustainably open new site after new site as asylum seekers continue to arrive by the thousands. Democratic New York State Assembly member Jamie Williams, whose district includes Floyd Bennett Field, said she has grave concerns over the proposal. She emphasized that the site has no infrastructure, no plumbing, no electricity, and no sewage system.
Floyd Bennett Field, a national park, is a treasure of natural beauty and biodiversity. Housing individuals here is equivalent to tarnishing the sanctity of Yellowstone National Park. The irreversible damage of flora and fauna and the destruction of our natural beauty are contrary to the ethos of conservation and preservation that national parks symbolize.
Kenneth Spencer, chairman of the U.S. Park Police Fraternal Force of Police, expressed concerns over the agency's readiness to protect the public and the immigrants themselves.
Let me be perfectly clear. Even without the migrant shelter on Floyd Bennett Field, we are at least 300 officers short of our required minimum level. Our capacity to serve and protect the public today is literally bursting at the seams. The idea that the U.S. Park Police is prepared to address 2,000 new migrants left under tents with nothing to do and no ability to communicate is not only imprudent, but it is also perilous.
Spencer said there are currently only 25 sworn officers assigned to the unit and only 2 officers on duty per shift. He also said the Park Police unit lacks modern facilities and telecommunication services. Natural Resources Committee Chairman Bruce Westerman recently wrote a letter to the Secretary of the Interior and the Director of the National Park Service demanding an explanation of the agreement. In the letter, he argued that national parks are not a place to temporarily or permanently encamp persons experiencing a lack of housing options.
As the Hollywood writers' strike comes to an end, another work stoppage could soon begin. In Las Vegas, hospitality workers have voted overwhelmingly in favor of a strike against hotels and casinos. I spoke with the NTD Business's Don Ma for more details. Don, great to have you back again. How's it going?
It's going great. How about yourself, Steph?
Pretty well. Thank you so much for asking. I want to look now at this latest strike. It seems to be a year of increasing strikes. What's the latest with this culinary workers' strike?
Right. So on Tuesday night, tens of thousands of workers from this powerful culinary union and bartenders union, they voted 95% in favor for a strike in Las Vegas. So the union leadership is now authorized to call a strike, but currently negotiations with several hotels are still continuing, and it will continue until into next week. The two unions actually represent somewhere around 60,000 workers in Las Vegas and Reno, and 53,000 workers were eligible to vote in Tuesday's strike authorization, and approximately 40,000 members are working under an expired contract. But the union didn't immediately set a deadline for a walkout, but leadership now has the ability to call the strike at any given moment moving forward.
So which companies will be impacted here, and what are they asking for?
Yeah, so they're currently in talks with top casino employers on the Las Vegas Strip. That's including MGM Resorts, Caesars, and Wynn Resorts, among others. The unions are asking for better pay, a reduced workload and quotas, and provisions of safety protections, among other things.
Now, the strike hasn't yet happened. What do you expect the impact will be if it does happen? This is a huge industry.
Yeah, so depending on how long and how widespread the strike is, it could have the potential of actually shutting down the Las Vegas Strip. And that's pretty significant. And this is more on the extreme end, but still, there's definitely going to be impacts on the Las Vegas hospitality industry. If we just think about it, if the workers are on strike, who's going to come to clean your room, right? Nobody wants to clean their own room when they're on vacation. And if there's no one cooking, that's going to reduce the options of food you're going to have. And because of that, tourists might say, I'm just not going to go that week. I'll cancel my flight. I'll cancel my bookings. And if that happens, it could have an impact on revenue and potentially the local GDP over there.
Yeah, culinary workers are a key part of the tourism industry. Of course, it could be a huge impact. Thanks so much, Don. Great to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, always a pleasure to be here, Steph.
Teens are hit by over 200 phone notifications a day, and they're tempted to look at them even in the middle of class. So how serious is this, and what can parents do? NTD's Emma Shi investigates.
Teens are distracted by around 237 phone notifications per day, according to a new report from Common Sense Media. Of the 200 teens who participated, many got over 500 notifications. 1/4 of these notifications came during school hours. The teens then looked at their phones for an average of 43 minutes, some for as long as 6 hours. The kids would check their phones over 100 times per day on average, some saying they struggled to put them down.
She may receive 150 snaps in a day, if not more. There's a constant snap attack.
Psychotherapist Carl Nassar's 14-year-old daughter is also barraged by phone notifications. He says having a good relationship with our teens is a key way to deal with the issue.
How do we have the conversations over and over again about, okay, it's dinner time, let's put the phone aside and let's have our meal. When is something really important? When can something wait?
Teens can also access age-inappropriate content on their phones. Almost half of the teen participants did so, accessing content like pornography, betting apps, and violent games. A small number used social media to chat with strangers, a risky phenomenon that could lead to problematic interactions with adults.
Teens are very lonely these days. The lockdowns kept them away from their friends, made their only communication, for the most part, online. So their phone becomes their friend, and that is really sad.
Psychiatrist Carol Lieberman says parents can take the phones away for periods of time and set time limits. They should also introduce their kids to other activities like sports or dance class. That will help them realize what they're missing out on.
It's always a process, right? There's no end to when when she's got it, we leave her alone.
Psychotherapist Carl Nassar says his 14-year-old daughter has matured with her phone use. She can distinguish between notifications that are important and ones that can wait. But there are still times when she gets hooked, and that's when the conversations begin anew. Emma Shi, NTD News.
And now for your sports news. Here's NTD's Dave Martin with details of a blockbuster trade in the NBA.
That's right, Steph. Seven-time All-Star Damian Lillard is heading to Milwaukee in a three-team trade that also includes Phoenix, according to a report by ESPN. Now, Portland will receive Drew Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, a future first-round pick from Milwaukee, as well as future draft considerations. The Suns, meanwhile, will receive several role players to complete the deal. The trade makes sense for several reasons, as Lillard wanted out of Portland, while Milwaukee, which won the 2021 NBA title, is under pressure to resign Giannis Antetokounmpo to an extension. The former two-time MVP said recently he wanted to be comfortable knowing the organization would continue to compete for NBA championships before doing so. And in college football news, Michigan State formally fired head football coach Mel Tucker today, according to a statement released by the school. Now, what's at stake here is the $79 million left on his contract. The school says they're firing him with cause in what may be an attempt to get out of paying him the remainder of the deal. Tucker's reportedly been under investigation since January by the university after being accused of sexual misconduct by a lady named Brenda Tracy. Tracy, who happens to be a sexual assault awareness speaker, was once hired by Tucker to talk to his players. Now, last week, the school informed Tucker of their intentions to fire him after the investigation was leaked to the media. The head coach responded saying other motives were at play. He says the university has known the details since March, yet only after the investigation became public did they decide to terminate him. Now, Tucker had signed a $95 million extension with the school 2 years ago after leading the Spartans to an 11-2 mark. And for your sports viewing schedule tonight, 14 baseball games are on the schedule, but none bigger than the finale of the Mariners-Astros series, with both teams needing a win to stay alive in the wild card race. And that's it for your sports news today. Steph, back to you.
Thanks, Dave. And that's all for today's news. And before we go, be sure to tune in for our special coverage tonight following the Republican debate. NTD's Tiffany Meyer will be taking an in-depth look at what happened, who stood out, and what it all means to you, the voters. That's tonight, starting at 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox. Good night.